So another criticism of activists or people in independent spaces, right? We have our own language, or we use terminologies which people do not use sometimes. Like even just now in your very first answer, Prashant, you were saying what you were using words like unsafe, marginalized communities, whereas other people may find the term unsafe to mean completely something different, right? And also the way that you were using it, it comes from a very liberal, maybe woke-ish place, right? Even if you don't want to use the word, or what you get what I'm saying. And this can be sometimes distant from the people, right? So this is a question similar to the earlier one that is about activism in general, or independent spaces in general, right? Are independent spaces, people who operate in independent spaces really distant from the ground, quote unquote?
I would say yes and no. I mean, yeah, it's definitely the space that we have doesn't cater to the masses the way you expect. I mean, people may relate more to like a Golden Village or something like that, and that's fine. Like, I mean, but where we try and work is with intermediaries to unlock spaces for people who need it, and to create that kind of dialogue. I mean, so an example for us is there's this whole punk community in Singapore who have no spaces to perform, largely because they don't run their own clubs and all that. So where we work with is actually with party promoters who bring in these punk gigs and all that, we allow them to find ways to, we find creative ways to make it viable for both us and for the punk community to run their gigs within our spaces. So while day to day we may not be speaking to this community in that sense, or they may not be hanging out in our space and all that, we do, if they do approach us and all that, we find ways to make it happen, other than turning them away because they cannot afford that. And so going back to why there's always food and drinks involved with with our spaces. I mean, when I started artistry, that was the first thing. I was like, okay, we cannot create a space where there's no F&B, because people will spend money on food and drinks, but they won't spend money on arts. So to me, it's always like you find ways to let people access these spaces, whether it's through something more familiar like Thai milk tea, as opposed to like paying for a $10 gig kind of thing. But I mean, we recognize that it's not a void deck space, and then the people who use that space, and we a bit different, our price points are a bit different, higher, but it's the reality of a commercial space. And it's a balance that we strike, and a lot of our more atas kind of operations actually help to fund the more accessible kind of things that we do with different communities. So yeah, it's always about striking that balance. But we don't also speak for these people, like I mentioned. Like we just provide the space and we let them take over and see what happens.
Thank you.
I think when Karl Marx first came out with his thesis, nobody understood him except the intellectuals. But that thesis or those theories went on to affect probably half the world, right? So in the same way, I think what the people who are doing who are using independent spaces for discussion and so on, in the same way, what they're proposing is something new, it's different, it's bringing to awareness new ideas, which may be alien to most people, but at the same time, if it's not done, then there'll be no change, right? So it's not a defense of what is happening, but it is also a way to show that these people were informed by certain ideas and they're trying to translate those ideas to the ground. Some do it more effectively, some are able to relate better, some less, right? That's so. But it's really a question of time before I think this happens. So you need time for the education to happen. But what's important is the platform, as Prof said. It's the platform because I give you an example. Just 2-3 days ago, I think Workers Made Possible, a group of almost 100 organizations and individuals released 2 statements on not on lorries. Yeah, on the lorries, right? Would the migrant workers themselves have been able to do that? No. They wouldn't have been able to do that. Look at what happened to the guys who did the SMRT strike. The bus strike, right? So these are the ones who don't have a voice. So they need someone else to come out with a statement. And probably half the migrant workers don't understand, can't even read what the statement is all about. But they will enjoy. And if they knew what it was all about, they would definitely support it wholeheartedly, I'm sure. Yeah? So this is the situation. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. I mean, so just relating to that, actually, I think, it's quite important to also highlight, in a way, I mean, we are from a privileged position, like owning and running these spaces, not owning, but running these spaces. But it's important how we use that privilege also on that. So, I mean, the whole, migrant workers and the lorry thing is quite important in a way that we, like all these organizations, including Projector, came to put our privilege behind this policy and hopefully effect some change, because it's been going on for way too long, and they've always been deferring it. So I think there was a genuine interest among these communities to try and push for that change.
Right. So there are multiple layers to the answer, right? So one is, yes, sometimes it starts off an elitist idea, but it spreads. Another one is the privileged must use their voices. And the third one is what you said earlier, which is there are multiple grounds, right? So I always, sometimes politicians, they want to dismiss your question, right? And it has happened to me a few times already, right? When you ask them something, then they'll say, oh, if you go to the ground, you'll know that what you're saying is not what you're talking about. I am part on the ground. This is one ground. There are other grounds. There are multiple grounds in Singapore, right? You cannot just dismiss what I'm saying because you heard some other person. I am telling you this matters, right? Like simple thing. I'm going to go on a rant now. So I asked I asked this person, right, this MP, oh, there are no ATMs around here. Oh, no, now everybody uses PayNow, no? Now everybody is cashless. They say, oh, there are many elderly here. Oh, no. They say, what are you talking about? I am saying I have an elderly mother. I know what I'm talking about, and you're just dismissing it as, oh, if you go to the ground, I don't know what ground they are going to also, when they are on their first. Anyway,